This is World Insight, and I'm Tian. China's longest diplomatic relations with Western Europe lie with Switzerland. It's a budding relationship from the time of a young People's Republic to the first Chinese joint venture with a Swiss company at the start of China's reform and opening up. Today, strong relations are anchored on innovation and vibrant trade. No wonder the Swiss ambassador to China is upbeat about growing ties despite global threats such as the pandemic. Swiss ambassador, good
welcome,
to see you.
Ken. Such a great pleasure to welcome you at the Swiss.
Thank you, sir. We started though with the reality checks about the pandemic.
I think the year 2021 is not a big prophecy. It's going to be the year of the vaccine. And in this case, I think both countries are well off because we are either producing vaccines or having agreements with other producers. I am quite confident about that. The main point is access, to provide access to vaccine, because not everybody has the same access, and the multilateral response is going to play an important role. The initiative so-called COVAX under WHO to provide an easy access to all the countries who need the vaccine is a very important one. I think that's going to be one important moment of cooperation in the multilateral framework. Both our countries are participating in that. And that's going to be an important moment in 2000. Not only the moment, because it's going to occupy one part of the year 2021.
It's encouraging to hear that. On the other hand, Switzerland is a country that's very open on the border. You have different populations coming in every day to work in your country. And that's important for a very integrated Europe. So how do you see, Mr. Ambassador, both the positive side and also the challenges as a result, particularly during this time when the pandemic hit in the European continent?
I mean, you correctly expressed how things are. So Europe is relatively small in surface, and these populations are really intertwined. It's not a choice to say open, close. In normal times, there is 1 million people. Our population is 8.5, 1 million additionally get in and out from. This is the reality. These people are not just tourists who can choose to come or not to come. They're coming for working. In my region, in the medical sector, 80% of the population go across the border every day. So you cannot imagine to a certain point to have a lockdown where to close the borders. That's the reality of Europe for different reasons, also for the sides. So we are very much circulating quite intensively, and our not only economy but services, as this example shows very well, need this exchange. So we have to adapt the measures we take. At the moment in Switzerland we are still fighting with the pandemics. Some strict measures are implemented now, especially that is Christmas time, so people should or would gather. I think for this year is going to be more difficult, but a total block or stop is not imaginable for the reason I described. I am confident that with the vaccine campaign in a few days or weeks, things or the dynamics are going to change.
Yeah. Yes. We hope that will happen as soon as possible, yes. Mr. Ambassador. But, Mr. Ambassador, that prevents further real communication.
Yes.
Face-to-face is always the best option. And when I see you in your eyes, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
But we might not have that luxury for some time, unfortunately. So how do you see it? And yet, this is a critical time because a lot of things are changing. We urgently need to know what each other are thinking. And this gives your even heavier workload because you are the bridge bringing the two sides together. How are you doing it on a daily basis? And how do you look at the possible misunderstandings one could have about the other? And And what is your solution?
You presented that very well, and there is not one unique answer to that. As a diplomat, you know, I've been dealing mostly in bilateral, but in multilateral, in plenary sessions, nothing happens. It happens in the corridors. It happens in the cafeteria,
at the coffee shops.
At the coffee shops, you know. And this, there is no virtual coffee shop. There is just the real one. So there is a danger for possible misunderstanding or even to slow down, definitely slowing down actual progress in negotiation. Yes, you also mentioned positive news to me, so even more important, those who are in place to,
you look at it as,
to deal, as people cannot come from headquarters, we have to deal, willing or not, what we can do. There is maybe the diplomacy looks a bit more like it used to look like 30, 40, 50 years ago, when there was just a telephone and nothing else to have a communication from the capital to capital or government to government. Now I don't say that we were threatened as spices because of all this multiplication, but our task, also the instrument we had at disposal, had a big evolution lately. Now we are coming back maybe much more about those who are in the capital actually are the only eyes and hands of a government like it used to be 50 years ago, maybe.
Ambassador Regazzoni from Switzerland has been in China for a year and a half by the end of 2020. As an experienced diplomat, he knows that the adept diplomacy always takes leadership and person-to-person trust, as he showed me through the history of his diplomatic career with photos. Now, it's also about Mongolia and North Korea, PRK.
Yeah, that's Mongolia, and North Korea.
Yes.
Right.
When you present the credentials.
Yeah. This is always an important moment in one's career, and one never gets used to that. Never.
No. It's an
no.
important moment. And also in France, right?
France,
that was a very special time.
We spoke about the Paris Agreement, and François Hollande at that time was French president, so it is very much in the scope of what we discussed now. That's successor, Emmanuel Macron, his wife, and my wife there in the Jardin de l'Élysée.
That's a very nice
I like this picture. It's a very warm one, and actually it corresponds to the personalities also, very warm ones. And there are other stations of my diplomatic career. So
in Europe, in Africa, in Asia.
Asia, Europe, Africa, right. But you know, at the end, what remains always in all this posting, also those who are not pictured here, is people. The people you met. That's the most important thing, and that remains for decades, even in smaller experiences, smaller encountering, that remains.
And these are from Asia, huh?
This is Indonesia, my second ambassadorial assignment. From Indonesia, that's Switzerland, of course. Yes. And here is Sri Lanka, which has been my first ambassadorial postings. So with our elephants in the religious occasions, they are decorated this way. The objects are really beautiful ones. It has been prevented. It was a collection of a Swiss gentleman established in Sri Lanka for a long time. And at the moment we left us this a big gift, and we are very honored peoples once again. That's a musical instrument from Timor-Leste. The name is sasando, and I think it's traditional instrument there. So that's like you open this way, and the musician plays it with the hands on the strings this way. This is the keys to tune it, to tune every key. Now it's out of tune. To know that you can hear a bit of, you know, how the sound might be. Very sweet.
Gentle and sweet sound.
It sounds something like, you know, we are used to that in Latin America maybe, but it's same sound, very sweet. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
As experienced as Ambassador Regazzoni is as a diplomat, the year 2020 has been extremely challenging as well. It's designated to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Switzerland. By the way, Switzerland was among the earliest Western nations to establish a formal relations with the People's Republic of China. There were enormous amounts of events and activities planned to honor this occasion. This is what happened due to the pandemic.
Indeed, it has been a very special year, let's say a difficult one for all of us. We were imagining that in an entirely different way, because it is the year of the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between our two countries. So we had prepared festivities, important bilateral visits. We could carry one of them, and not the least important, because the Speaker of the Swiss Parliament was here early this year. It seems so long back. It is not. But then the pandemics changed our programs dramatically. So looking back at this year, it has been the first part. It has been very much under the pandemics. To us, at the first time, it was the usual, bringing in colleagues stuck abroad. And one very important and unexpected activity has been procurement of medical equipment, masks. Massive procurement from Switzerland occupied us between April and June massively in our day-by-day activities at the embassy. Before that, there has been also some moments of very important solidarity, as in the early stage we brought in ventilators for the city of Wuhan. I think this is also an important moment. And looking ahead, we are now busy with, I think, with the vaccines. This is going to be, to us, the Swiss government announced that in a few days campaign will start. And by mid of 2021, the objective is to have 7 million vaccines, so let's say 75% of the Swiss population. We hope that by then also to have a more frequent exchange also in people.
It certainly has been a very challenging year, but many are appreciating, the PPEs that the Swiss people have been supporting China with, and certainly the ventilators for the city of Wuhan, with your team here working very hard to facilitate everything. China and Switzerland have been working together on multiple platforms from the very beginning of the establishment of diplomatic relations. And recently, if we look at the figures, first of all, Switzerland is one of the very first European countries to come onto the platforms of the AIIB, which is a regional platform trying to promote infrastructure building. Switzerland has also been an important contribution to the climate change accord in Paris, which China has also been part of. So, Mr. Ambassador, how do you see this cooperation between China and Switzerland on a multilateral framework and multilateral mechanisms?
Let me start a little bit from the bilateral, from the past.
Okay.
Because it's a very special year, let me say.
70th anniversary.
70th anniversary, so just a few flashes about it. We were among the first countries to recognize the People's Republic of China just 3 months after the establishment. So it was October to, in January, we already made the step. So that's a lot of, it's very meaningful, I find it. Looking back, the world was not today's world with no internet, so we didn't virtually know each other at that time. It was really a very far reality, but nevertheless we made this step. 40 years later, the economic opening of China, and there too I have, now it's 40 years this year, and talking to Swiss companies, I was really amazed to learn in which condition the first joint venture was with a Swiss company. Third piece of history, which is very close, much closer to us, a free trade agreement. We signed in 2013 And this is one of the first definitely with a European country. And there too we went to its very different size, our economies, but nevertheless we felt confident to go into that. The multilateral is a very important aspect. It is your original question. So we don't have the choice but to believe in multilateralism, because as a small country, so we cannot have a unilateral approach, even less a power policy. We have a national defense, of course, but definitely not a policy of power. As a neutral country, we need to have as many relations as possible. I made the example about WHO. An outstanding we have in the near future, we are already engaged in that, but I am expecting a strong dynamism to be gathered in a few months, is about sustainable development, the Paris Agreement. I think that has been one of the major steps of the international community of success of multilateralism. I had the chance to be present there as a member of the Swiss delegation. I was ambassador in Paris at that time. It has been really a unique moment.
Tell us more, because I'm being very curious about this part of the story. I know before coming here that you were one of the chief negotiators for Switzerland in that.
I was in the delegation. I was the bilateral ambassador.
Well, just to put it humbly, but you know, what was the situation like for you personally at that moment?
So it was not just, you know, a conference where everything has already been discussed, the minister arrived, we sign and we go. So it lasted 12 days or 13
Went beyond the original schedule.
Ahead, no, ahead, it passed, so the watches have been stopped symbolically at a certain point in time. Huge number of delegates, 10,000 delegates. And the outcome was until a couple of days before the end, could be yes or could be fail, or it could fail. I think that the French chair and also the major players, among which China and all the countries, made really a big step to create the positive dynamism, to get into real engagements, 1.5 degree maximum growth of the temperature, and a very bold step. And then at the moment of the adoption, it has been unforgettable. And all negotiators will tell you that. I was listening to the memories of the Chinese negotiator yesterday about that. It has been really a delivery, a very emotional moment. It was a bit like being in a stadium, you know, because it was really a great moment, because we felt that a big step was accomplished. And now, after it has been a difficult 5 years, because major players withdraw from this agreement, some players announced that they are going to join in again. I think that the first months of next year could be the opportunity for a positive development, for major cooperation, a new atmosphere of cooperation, at least in this very important sector, which is environment, climate change, sustainable development. I am expecting a positive momentum in it in a few weeks.
China and Switzerland has become innovation strategic partners over the years. There are a lot of things that the two countries can actually work with one another. How do you see the potential under the current circumstances?
Innovation is definitely an important topic in our bilateral relations. It's important, first of all, for our countries. So I am proud to notice that Switzerland is well off in the international rankings about innovation. What does it mean to have new ideas and to get value out of them? That's innovation, basically, and solutions also for needs. Swiss trade is an important part of our bilateral relation, but one as important as the first one is investment. And what does it mean? Companies, Swiss companies established in China. And it is a huge amount of them and a huge value invested here in China. What do? They are producing innovative solution, because it's not objects, are not tools, are systems which are produced. I visited lately some of the Swiss companies based in China. I was amazed to see how they can provide solutions for, you know, electric cars, or storage of electricity, or as interested as that, smart grid distribution of rational distribution of energy. That showcases well how we can cooperate in innovation. Or at the governmental level, having dialogues, exchanging solutions, for instance, in measurement of pollution is a very important topic.